New research shows weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy may help to reduce alcohol cravings. Dr. Alex DiFeliceantonio is a neuroscientist with Virginia Tech's Fralin Biomedical Research Institute, and she's been researching this unintended side effect and joins us now to discuss. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. I mean, this is pretty groundbreaking. Can you talk to us about your study and the science behind these classification of medications and their ability perhaps to curb cravings beyond food?
Yeah, so my colleague Warren Bickel and I had seen some reports of these drugs reducing alcohol intake in people who were taking them. And we were just really interested in how it might be working. So, why are these drugs reducing how much people drink? And so we had people come into the lab. We have a really fun bar lab that looks kind of just like a bar. We gave them a standard dose of alcohol, people either taking GLP-1 drugs and people not. They drank it. And then we took their breath alcohol and asked them, how drunk do you feel right now? And really interestingly, the people taking the GLP-1 drugs had a much slower increase in their breath alcohol, and they reported feeling kind of less intoxicated, less drunk. And so it seems like these drugs are really kind of reducing the subjective effects of alcohol and reducing how much alcohol is getting in your bloodstream initially, kind of changing how much people want to drink.
So does it affect people differently, or would this be across the board?
Yeah, so we only studied people who were taking these drugs already, so people who either had type 2 diabetes or were taking them to lose weight. And we weren't able to look at, okay, compare maybe different types of drugs like Zepbound versus Wegovy, for example. But what we saw was pretty uniformly in this population of people who were taking these drugs prescribed by their doctor, that we saw this reduction in the subjective feeling of drunkenness and this reduction in breath alcohol after drinking a standard drink.
This is simply incredible. So I need to ask, could this research, do you think, perhaps open the door for other treatments with this classification, the GLP-1 treatments like alcohol abuse disorders?
Yeah, I think people, kind of practical implications of this are people being prescribed these drugs should really pay attention to how alcohol makes them feel if they drink while they're taking them. And then also, just as you said, alcohol use disorder is a big issue. We do have some pharmacological treatments, but they're not great. Relapse is still a really big problem. And so if we can expand our toolbox and use these drugs to help people who need to cut back on their drinking, that would be a really great outcome.
Right. Dr. Alex, any concern from the researchers about people perhaps misusing these drugs for reasons other than the original reasons, diabetes, weight loss?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are generally trying to get access to these drugs. There were shortages, right, and trying to use them to either, control their blood sugar or reduce weight. This is just kind of another side effect or potentially beneficial side effect that we've been seeing, which I think is, there's been reports of other of these kind of beneficial side effects of these drugs that need to be explored with more research.
Okay. And speaking of that, before we let you go, what is next? What's the next steps here in your research?
We've been really interested in understanding what other classes of substances that people take too much of that these drugs might be able to reduce. So things like smoking, opioids, and even the psychostimulants like cocaine. Are these drugs, the GLP-1 drugs, able to reduce people's intake of those substances?
Okay, and in light of this research, if you're already on these type drugs, Wegovy, Ozempic, anything to talk with your doctor about if perhaps you are interested in this additional benefit?
Yeah, I mean, always discuss with your doctor if it is something that maybe you're finding trouble controlling your blood sugar or controlling your weight because you are drinking a lot. Alcohol contains calories, it contains carbohydrates. This might be a good discussion to have with your doctor as you kind of go in to that management to say, I want to control my blood sugar or I would like help, reducing my weight. You could also discuss drinking at that time.
Okay. Excellent work coming out of Virginia Tech. Thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.